Welcome to Jewish Cinémathèque, where we meet some of the important faces involved with films that tackle aspects of the Jewish experience. Today I am joined by filmmaker Anat Goren, whose four-part documentary, Dayan, The First Family, is being screened online as part of the Israel Film Center Festival in New York City. The series Dayan, The First Family was shown in Israel this past year, and look forward to having a chance to chat with Anat. Anat, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
It's really nice to meet you. Why were you drawn to this story?
Actually, we don't have that many families in Israel that catched us as the Dayan family did for generations. A very unique family that like has an overdose of talent and madness and intelligence and non-conformism and everything that adds up to a good story. And it has been like that for like 4 generations, turning up 5 generations by now. And it was fascinating to hear these stories all over again and to try to reveal some of the, the inner relationships and the emotions that were part of this crazy family.
But it's interesting. Your background, you did 2 TV movies, and you did a TV series before this.
I did many other films, but most of them I did as a journalist, so they've been more political movies. I've been filming campaign movies 2 campaigns that took over in Israel. I was filming, and they did a lot of noise at the time, so I went to history.
Some of our younger viewers may never have heard the name Moshe Dayan. Certainly someone in my generation, my parents' generation, he was, Moshe Dayan. He was the hero. His picture was on the wall in American Jewish homes. But the younger generation may have forgotten about him. For you as a child growing up, was he an important figure, or was he just someone, that your parents spoke about?
First of all, I was born in the Yom Kippur War. I was born September 28, 73, just a few days before the war. So Moshe Dayan, when I grew up, was no longer Moshe Dayan that was when you grew up. Sorry, I'm not trying to insult you, but it was a whole other Moshe Dayan. I think that I knew better his son, Asi, who was very important figure here in the culture in Israel, and all the other branches of the family.
Yeah, the amazing thing about the Dayan family is that it reverberates culturally, historically, politically. One son became a sculptor, another son an incredible filmmaker, and the daughter an activist and even a member of Knesset. You chose, as the narrator, though, to bring in Uri Avneri, who himself is a controversial figure. In a sense, he throws in his thoughts throughout the film. Was he a hero of yours? Why did you choose that? Was there a political structure to your series?
I think he's the family's antagonist. He did a career from Moshe Dayan, from his hate to Moshe Dayan. And eventually, when I asked him at the end of the interview, I asked him if he thinks that he did how does he treat Dayan today? So he told me that he was mistaken. And I think he was very significant to this family and to its story.
So you frame this story by going all the way back to Degania and to tell the Chalutz story of Moshe's parents, and incredible footage of the early pioneers, and they're winding up at Kibbutz Degania. how was it? Was it difficult finding this footage? Were there filmmakers who actually, made movies back then?
First of all, there were. And I mean, the Zionist movement had a very. It was the propaganda years. They shot everything. Then just to in order to show people abroad how beautiful Israel is. I think we still do it. It's getting less and less pretty here, but we still do the propaganda. But actually there is a lot of footage to Israel, and also in the archives, but also in this family, because this family came from Europe. They even then they were like Graphomanians people. They used to treated themselves as like they have part in history. I mean, they felt significant themselves and the things that they're doing, and actually they did, because you can tell the story of Israel and the story of this family at the same breath almost, because
which is what you do so beautifully. It's really the story of Israel and the pioneering years and moving into the 48 war and after through this family, which is incredible.
Right, coming to Israel from Europe, then establishing the first kibbutz, then the first moshav, then Shmuel Dayan was in the first Knesset, Moshe Dayan's father, and Moshe Dayan's mother was very active, politically active as well, and their youngest son was killed in the Independence War, and then Moshe Dayan, of course, in the building the IDF, and the 56 war, the Sinai War, and then, I mean, the 6 Days War and the Yom Kippur War, and they're I mean, even in the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, Aviv Geffen, who's a member of this family, was on the same stage that next to Yitzhak Rabin when it happened. I mean, it's like the Forrest Gump family, that they were always in the right places, or in the major places of Israeli history. That's why it was in that sense, it was easy to tell their stories and our story.
In a certain sense, you had to sit there with a genealogical readout of this family, because you had the Dayan parents, the 4 siblings, and then Moshe's 3 kids. But what happens to the children of the siblings? And you have the Geffen family and the Dayan family and all of the different people, with some of them having very differing feelings about grandpa or about dad, about Moshe the father, about Ruth the mother, and about the various escapades that Moshe was supposedly carrying on. How did you handle that? And were there people who refused to meet with you? You have interviews with really, the vocalist Geffen, Aviv Geffen, but you don't have his sister, Shira Geffen, the filmmaker. She just refused to be part of this?
She refused to be part of it, but I think the power of this series is that most people did cooperate, and many of them for the first time. Ruth Dayan just celebrated her 100th birthday when I started, and I think this was a trigger for them to finally tell their stories after many years that they many parts of this family don't want any relation with it. Amalia Assi's daughter, who's with you there in New York, it was the first time in 20 years that she talked, and many more that didn't want any connection anymore to this legacy. They want to break it.
So I'm going to interrupt you here, because just so that our audience understands it. So Moshe had 3 kids, and So can you just, so you threw out the name, Yael and Asi. And
Okay. Let's try to make an order here in this mess.
Please.
So we have Shmuel and Dvorah, Moshe Dayan's parents. Then we have Moshe, who's the oldest, and we have his sister Aviva, who died right after the 6 Days War. She committed suicide. And then we have the youngest brother of Moshe, who died in the Independence War. Aviva is the mother of Jonathan Goldman, who's a very, very famous poet and writer in Israel, journalist, and he wrote a lot of stories.
That's the fourth sibling.
No, there are only three.
But the son.
We have Moshe, we have Aviva, and we have Zorik. Okay. Zorik had died. Aviva committed suicide, but she has Jonathan, and three more siblings to Jonathan. One of them also committed suicide. And on the other hand, we have Moshe, who married Ruth, and he has 3 children. Are you with me? You're still with me?
I think the audience is, certainly, yes.
So Moshe had 3. He has Yael, who's an Israeli politician. He had Asi, who's a filmmaker and a writer as well, and a journalist, and everything you can imagine. And we have Udi, who was a sculptor and who was like the black sheep of the family for many years. And his kids are speaking in this series, and Asi's kids are speaking. But Asi has 4 kids. They are living in 4 different continents by now. They have very little connection among themselves, and the family had tore apart.
So you have a father who you portray as really becoming a major figure that Israelis grow up looking up to. He is seen as the one responsible for the victory in the 56 Sinai War. He's Minister of Defense during the 6 Day War, and famously, as you show, was very careful to position himself for the camera so that he walks with Uzi Narkis on one side and with Yitzhak Rabin on the other towards the Western Wall as Jerusalem is united. And then the 73 War, where a lot of people point their finger towards him for being responsible for allowing Israel to be surprised and nearly annihilated. You paint this picture, and you also show the relationship that he has with his kids, which is not very good. They don't have a lot of nice things to say about daddy. Neither do the grandchildren.
Yes, except from Yael, his eldest, who's her father's name keeper for years now. She's the only one who's insisting on preserving this facade of Moshe Dayan, the hero. I mean, she knows all his faults probably, but she feels as the last protector of his legacy. All the rest have these mixed feelings. As you said, he wasn't a great father. He wasn't a great husband. He wasn't a great politician. He was a very good general. But he did good to Israel until a certain point, and since then it all broke down. I mean, the Israeli history and the family's history has just changed dramatically from 73 and until 73. This family was pretty much united because it had its base, and since 73 it all collapsed.
Yeah, then there's a commission that's put together to try and see the responsibility for failure to provide proper intelligence, and Dayan sort of gets away scot-free, or at least no one is pointing the finger at him from a government point of view. And amazingly, Menachem Begin brings him into his government. And some people say that Dayan was largely responsible for bringing peace between Israel and Egypt.
That was he tried to change his fate. I mean, because in the Israeli memory, Moshe Dayan will always remembered as the responsible of the failure of the 73 war. It was like his redemption, this peace treaty. But today, when you say Moshe Dayan, no one would remember him in the peace talks in '79.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating because for American Jews, it might be very different. We still have this memory of Moshe Dayan and the 6-Day War. Fascinating. Let's take a break now and take a look at a clip from Anat Goren's incredible 4-part series about the Dayan family.
מה זה להיות משפחת דיין? לבוא למכס עם לביאה ולצאת כאילו כלום וזהו. תראה את הסיפורים על לביאה.
משפחת דיין, התשובה זה משפחת קנדי, הייתה הפקה ענקית של סרט גיבורים הוליוודי. עיתונאים, שחקנים, מנהיגים מכל העולם היו באים אלינו.
משה דיין היה זאב בודד מוחלט.
כל מפגש שהיה למשה דיין עם איזושהי בחורה, מיד הלכו על זה הגדול.
את הכל אני ידעתי, זה לא היה אכפת לי.
יעל דיין,
אסף דיין,
ג'נרל מוישה דיין,
דיין,
לנו הרעלת דיין כבר.
יעל הייתה בת 14, אבל בת 14 היא הייתה כמו בת 20. משה דיין חשד ושאני רציתי לשאוב ממנה ידיעות. זה היה חשד מוצדק.
אנחנו היינו אליטה משרתת מטעם עצמנו.
הם היו הקורבנות של המהפכה הציונית, אנחנו היינו הקורבנות של הקורבנות.
רק לא תעשה היכרות עם המצלמה, זה הכלי הכי חשוב במשפחת דיין.
הוא לא היה מסוגל לאהוב אף אחד.
זה לא בדיוק קורה לך בשדות.
משפחה מעורערת עד היסוד.
אני דומה לאבא שלי.
הרצון להיות נורמלי, עם ילדות נורמלית והורים נורמליים.
אבא לא היה שם אף פעם, ולכן אבא לא היה חסר.
תמיד הסתירו מאיתנו. הכל.
במשפחה יש כמה התלבטויות, לא אחת. זו מילה שלא נאמרה עשרות שנים.
אני לא ידעתי שיש מקום לעוד רבות במשפחה, אני כאילו...
לא, פעם ראשונה שאני שומע את הסיפור הזה, סבתא.
אני אוהב אותך מאוד שלי. אני לא יכולה להקריא את זה. אני לא יכולה. אני יכולה להקריא את זה.
So, Anat, one of the things that struck me is that Moshe Dayan's first wife, Ruth Dayan, who some see as one of the great women of Israel, you know, founder of the Maskit, the incredible work that Maskit was doing. She comes across as being, you know, sweet and a terrific mother, and the kids surround her on her 100th birthday. And yet the question is, these kids are so troubled. Where was mom? You know, so dad was off doing his thing and maybe gallivanting and maybe womanizing, but where was Ruth during all of this?
Ruth is an incredible woman. She just celebrated her 103 birthday. But even her kids said that as a mother, she wasn't the perfect mother. I think you can say that was another era. Women were very attached to their husbands and careers, and Dayan was there for Moshe Dayan's career, and she was also a very big donation. She went to a lot of trips to the U.S. and everywhere to donate money.
To help raise money for Israel.
To help raise money for Israel. And she was having maskit, and the kids in the early years did not live at home at all. And they were kicked out of school, and they lived in the pnimiyot. It was like schools, far away from the home. So they were never. The family was never that connected. I mean, as Yael, for example, remembers. I mean, Yael's memories were totally different than her brothers. Of course, and also they today, and also in the few of the letters that the family members read in this series, you can hear that Ruth Dayan is apologizing for the lack of love that her family had. I mean, I think nowadays she acknowledged it. And in the last years of Asi, for example, she was a great mother. She kept him alive for many years.
You know, just so that the viewers know, Asi Dayan, Asaf Dayan was his actual name. He went on to direct films, to write films, and his film, The Life According to Agfa, is considered one of the great Israeli movies of all time, and just really grew into that, but was involved with drugs and 4 different marriages, and just couldn't make it work, it seems, and died quite a sick man. He really didn't speak to Daddy for 8 years before Moshe's death, and then finally, what happened there?
They had actually it started politically, but I believe there was much underneath it. He always used to say that the first poem he ever showed to his father said to him, "This is rubbish," and this is what went with him along for all these years to come. And he was this myth figure. I mean, how can without too much parental feelings, or he wasn't so empathetic person, Moshe Dayan. He was pretty much a cold person, narcissist. I'm not sure that he even saw them, his kids. So they had a very rough history, and then came the Yom Kippur War, and Asi was one of the most significant voices against his father. He went in interviews and said that his father should have resigned, and he wasn't strong enough, and he maybe thought right, but he did wrong. And after that, they didn't speak for few years until Moshe was in his last days.
You know, it's interesting. Moshe is clearly having different relationships while in it during his marriage, and Ruth Dayan claims in the film that he was unaware of them, at least at the beginning. I mean, 18 years of philandering, and she was unaware. What'd you think of that? As you were
No, I don't think she was unaware, but she has this. She still feels for him. You know, if I ask her today, she'll say, "I still love him." And she said that they were all like that, and marriage did not mean much, and it was all for the country and not for the family, not for the kids, and not for the wife. I don't believe this, of course. I think she was very hurt, and eventually she also she was the one who asked him to leave after many years of betrayal. She just published a very nice book of letters that they wrote to each other for like 40 years or 30 years. And it's very interesting to see how this relationship how it started with a very big, great love and how it ended. No, I don't. She's 103. Let's give her the credit of thinking whatever she likes.
And as we look at his death, he's remarried, and he leaves his entire estate, valued, some say, over $5 million, to his second wife, and nothing to his children. What kind of reaction did you find from the children when you were interviewing them about this?
They still, I think that was the only point that Yael, I think, succeeded to speak sincerely about her anger. She was very angry at it, of course. But this family, they just repeat the same errors again and again. I mean, the kids, Moshe Dayan's kids, were not good parents to their kids, like Moshe Dayan was not, and also his Udi, who's Moshe Dayan's son, who didn't get anything when Moshe died. Did not leave anything to his own kids, although he was very hurt by the really same thing. So, like, they're repeating the tragedy all over again. It's like a crazy cycle that probably I hope it will end sometime. But
Anat, you did an amazing job in delving into this truly dysfunctional and yet very important family that really helped build the state of Israel. The sacrifice of the family for the state of Israel. It's quite sad and yet quite powerful if you look at this. It must have been quite a task.
Yes, but I'm still looking for more families like that. Well, because it was pretty much fun, I enjoyed every minute.
How was this accepted in Israel when you had it on television there?
It was accepted. It was accepted good. I mean, people loved it and binged it. Like, they watched all the 4 chapters in one night. But Yael Dayan didn't like it at all, and she had come out to the press with a lot of criticism. She thought her role was too little, and she thought that I did wrong to her father's memory. And I respect that.
Wow. What an undertaking. Thank you so much for being with us. The name of the film series, the TV series, is Dayan, the First Family. And indeed, in many ways, they were a first family in the story of Israel. And not by building this incredible story of the state of Israel and the 100+ years of the Dayan family there, you've done just an amazing job. So
as I say, like the Kennedys, just without the money.
Well, there was money. It just wasn't left to the kids.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.